Hello, everyone, and welcome to OHSCA Interviews. I'm Vincenzo Calla, and I'm your host for today's episode. Today, I'm happy to have with me the MPP for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes Brock, Laurie Scott. Laurie was first elected in 2003 and served until 2007, and then returned in 2011. She has served in a variety of roles as an MPP in opposition, in many shadow critic roles, and now in government. From 2018 to 19, she served as Ontario's Minister for Labour, and then served for Ontario's Minister for Infrastructure from 2019 to 2021. Laurie is an advocate for victims of human sex trafficking in Ontario, both inside and outside the Legislature, and has received national awards for her work. Thank you, Laurie, for your time, and thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be with you today.
So we're going to start off the interview with our question and answer segment. And these questions are all asked by our members of our high school team. And also, before I start, I just wanted to thank you for coming on. You are the first MPP on our show this season. So the first of many MPPs on our show heading up to the June election. So great to have you here today. And obviously, you'll see reflected in our questions, we're going to talk election too. So we're going to start off with the first question, which is one of the questions I made up, which was, what did you learn in opposition, maybe through shadow critic roles and sort of the workings of opposition that helped you during your time as a minister?
That's a great question. And thank you for being president of the Ontario High School Conservative Association and all your members out there for being part of our team. And you're right, I've had the honor of being elected since 2003. And I will always tease people that I will never get a certificate for all the things I've learned since being in government, in provincial governments, but and the people you meet and the knowledge you glean, and it's fabulous. So you do learn a lot. And by the time we got into government, because I'd been the better part of, like 14 years in opposition, really. So we had a big list of things I wanted to get done because we'd heard it not only from my constituents, but from across the province. So you already had a super network of people that you met either through critic roles, because I had many critic roles in opposition, or just people you networked through. I'd always say the story of Premier Bill Davis. What a superman. I knew him before I was elected. My dad had been a federal politician, and oh my goodness, the people that were always willing to lend you an ear, how you do things. And that's the type of connections you make. And you kindly brought up my work to fight human sex trafficking, and that charge that we started in 2012, really, and where it has led to. And that was, you met people, police forces, survivors of human trafficking and their input. And then you connected through different associations and communities. Even my own community groups were like, what's happening and how can we help? That type of thing helps you to build, in that case, private members bills that led to legislation that got, introduced by the former Liberal government, even though I was in opposition, right? Reaching across party lines, learning how it works, what can be acceptable in terms of what you might make the bill too aggressive in any type of bill, and how to moderate and get things done. So there is, when they say network and getting to know as many people and that as you can, it absolutely comes through when you need to get things done. And as your journey through, you're in high school now, but as your journey in life goes, it's amazing. And I kind of knew that from my dad and my family and community roots, but wow, the networking world outside is incredible, and lots of people are there to help you.
Definitely. And I mean, we see it, obviously you're in government now, so you have even more opportunities to create more networks. And even on this show, we've had plenty of MPPs, well, a lot of MPs on, and obviously the Conservative Party of Canada is in opposition. So we've had plenty of discussions about shadow critics and going and reaching across those party lines. So I'm sure familiar regulars of the show will be familiar with what you're saying about reaching across party lines and party members bills, private members bills, and lots of connections. And really that's important. And I'm sure it did help you during your time as minister, and now just as a sitting member, not in a portfolio right now, but I'm sure it's very helpful.
Yep, it's been great, and I just want to give a shout out to when we were mentioning the human trafficking fight, to all the present ministers and the ministers when I was in like a collective unit in the government, and Premier Ford absolutely 100% behind us, letting us make changes to education, to Attorney General, Solicitor General, Ministry of Children and Services, to collectively keep that fight going and concentrate and zero in on where we need to make the changes and who we need to work with. So, that takes leadership from the top. And way back, a small group of us set the foundation, and it's just been great when you're in government to see the leadership that everyone has played in our party to keep that issue going forward. So if I can use that example, I like to use it. Good things can happen, and it doesn't usually get the press as much as all the other things that we're dealing with.
There's just so much going on right now. And before the pandemic, your government was busy. Imagine now during the pandemic, but we'll get to that after. So the second question comes from Vasu in Ajax. And he wanted to ask, recently the Ontario government invested in Peterborough and Kawartha Lakes manufacturers to boost regional economy. What does this provide for your constituents, and how can you make sure it goes through as fast as possible before the election?
Absolutely. And our Premier and Minister Fedeli, Economic Development, Jobs and Trade, I think is the title fully. They're like the best salesmen you'll ever see in the province. Like we're crippled by the pandemic and the fact we can't travel, but virtually they have continued on and strengthened. I think it's $7 billion worth of relief for businesses, whether it's reduced hydro rights, less red tape, just attracting businesses back to Ontario, because we have a workforce, we have an incredible IT workforce. I mean, we're better than Silicon Valley in lots of things. Again, a hidden secret because our universities and colleges have adapted, and it's such a draw. Just the things they've done with the auto sector, and I'm naming a few. And then locally, you're right, the Eastern Ontario Development Fund. So thank you for the question. Was just in with Mr. Fedeli last week, and these are funds that we've given to companies that qualified, and we're at Colonial Log and Timber, and also to Bel Air Mectronics and Omimi. So it's incredible the diversity of the businesses that they applied it. It's just that like extra boost that helps those companies put more of their own money into, right? It's just like an incentive. And they create jobs, they strengthen our local manufacturing, which we are gaining back in spades. It's been fabulous because I sat in opposition when the government lost 300,000 good paying manufacturing jobs. So to try and get that manufacturing back. So they sign contracts with the ministry when they get approved and get that money flowing. Sometimes it's over a year, but usually there's what we call a transfer payment agreement. So it's signed and it carries on. It's already signed and official, and it doesn't matter the election call type thing. It's in motion. And so, Colonial Log and Timber, is it like a 3-generation manufacturing company that does the beautiful log and timber homes. And it was like $195,000 dollars, and that helps them fully automate their manufacturing process, gains efficiency. They're going to double production. It's incredible to say just that little bit with their, also obviously their input of dollars too, from 25 to 50 home kits per year, just to meet, customer demand. But this is, they're selling, they could be selling all over the world. And to meet we went in there and met the workers. So a couple were just new and they're getting trained on it. And I think, I can't remember the name, but there is one of those shows that they're building a resort for. So those televised shows where they go on the builders. Can't remember the name of it right now, but that's going to happen. And then Bel Air Mectronics is incredible in Omimi because they do a lot of engineering work and design and manufacture hydraulic manifolds and other fluid power components and robotic auxiliary equipment, which is like, what does all that mean? But they get orders from all over the world to make specific machines for industry, and they're turning around quickly. And it's talking like it's an empty building in Omimi, Ontario, which is between Lindsay and Peterborough. And, it's just, smart manufacturing. And he's a great Ontario story, great location. They want to stay there. They want to build a new building. And, they're talking creating 5 jobs now, but they want to like create 100 jobs in the near future. So again, those contracts are signed, the money's starting to flow, and we're talking about another program that they can sign up for. And just and there was lots of women in trades there too. So we had a great time in promoting women in trades, women in engineering. It was fantastic.
Well, that's all amazing things. And really, when you were talking about it, the thing that struck out to me is that, wow, this is all made in Ontario. This is all Ontario jobs benefiting to Ontario's economy. And it's stuff that's worldwide. And Ontario is it's booming. Ontario's, I think it was when we had Rudy Cusetto on last season, one of our very first interviews, maybe episode 6 or something like that of season 1. We were talking about Ontario becoming the economic engine again, especially now is the best time to make sure we're on that track now that we're recovering from the pandemic, and we pretty much have not a fresh start, but we have a good starting base to sort of bring that economy back up. And like you said, we have businessmen running the province. We have Doug Ford, Premier Ford, who's a businessman running the province, and a great team of ministers as well, like you mentioned, who are all working very hard on this. And really, it's something amazing that that's going to benefit Ontarians and Ontario's economy for years, for decades to come, for sure. So we're going to go into the third question, which is you're very passionate about encouraging women to get actively involved in public life and politics. And so I wanted to ask you, what do you think that the Ontario PC Party can do to encourage more women to run in elections, especially now as we are entering an election period?
Absolutely great question. And I certainly, I'll tell you, when I first started, and I think it still holds true to a certain extent, that you really had to be encouraged as a woman to enter politics. So you try to be out there just by the fact, fortunate enough to get elected, and I'm a woman in politics. And I think there was only 3 of us when I first got elected in 2003 on our side. And then to see that expand to more women in the legislature, and after the 2018 election, I think there was 49 out of 124 ridings were represented by women. And that was like 39.5%, which was the highest of any provincial legislature across the province. And the 25 out of 76 MPPs were women in our party specifically. So just being involved encourages more women, and just, telling the truth of it's a difference between an urban riding and a city riding, how much sacrifice of time you have to make too, just because rural ridings are, more demanding just by the nature of the riding. So you have to have a lot of, conversations, like you're not at every birthday party. And, my dad, in a sense, took us as kids with him to a lot of things, but, you have to have a family unit. It's a whole buy-in to be able to do the job fully. And, people like it or don't like it type of thing, but you try to be honest and upfront. And women, we want more women in politics. I think every party does that, but we really want more women in politics. We have the PC Women in Politics, so PC WHIP organization. President is Sandra Lamra at the moment. And they do workshops, training sessions, just different approach. Women, they're natural fundraisers the way men are, just every gamut we look at. But, we're leading by example. The Premier has a lot of strong women representation in portfolios, which is fantastic to see. And they're doing a great job. And, he recognizes the important, side of life and challenges that women face that may be different. And I have to tell you, just personally, being in opposition and being in government and cabinet, I mean, it changes the dynamic at the table and the different perspectives. We bring it as women, but we also bring it from different backgrounds, right? I nursed before. Other people are teachers, lawyers, they have done lots of politics, agriculture backgrounds. I mean, it's fantastic. So you bring all those things to the table. And I find it now out there in ridings, maybe 40 years ago, people weren't as tuned to voting for women to represent them. Now I think people love it. I mean, I have people that come to say to me, and they say, we don't know you, but the fact that you're just a woman, what's great. Like, that doesn't happen all the time. It shouldn't just happen that way, but there is that refreshing saying, God, yeah, get in there, like crack it, go by example. So you go and you do it. And, it's not for everybody, as politics isn't, whether you're a man or a woman. But if you like it, there isn't the barrier, right? You have to know what you're getting into, but there's lots of training, there's lots of support, there's lots of women supporting women, and the premier is very supportive.
Well, for sure. And I mean, I think it's important that now going forward, especially, I'm going to keep mentioning this, but in an election year, I'm seeing as more and more ridings that aren't represented by PC MPPs are starting to choose their nomination candidates. The website's pretty full in terms of a good mix of PC candidates who are women and new refreshing ideas coming to the table. I've been trying to reach out to some candidates. We reached out to a lot of CPC candidates in the federal election, so we hope to do the same with this election. And it's just so refreshing to see such a good, I mean, our party already has a great diverse team of people from all different backgrounds and walks of life. And I think that it's great that we have more people with different backgrounds coming forward. And even it's just amazing. And I mean, I can go a little deeper into it, but I don't want to, because we still have a couple more questions to go on to. But it's just so encouraging to see, especially the leadership in the party by Christine Elliott, the deputy premier, the amount of leadership she brings to the press conferences, to the floor of the legislature, and really a lot of the stepping in when sometimes the premier can't make it. She steps in, and she's a fantastic leader in the party, and we need more people like that to carry the banner. So
I agree with you more.
So we're going to go into the fourth question, which is another question about the election. Surprise, surprise. And this one comes from Rain from Toronto. And he asks, how is the Ontario PC party being prepared for another victory? And are you optimistic that you'll get a position in government or even opposition?
Well, you always have to work really hard to get reelected. And it is a tough job. And the fact you go and ask, probably 80,000 potential voters every, 4 years, maybe sooner, if you've done a good job, and whether you can have the job again. So it's not, it's a bit of a tough thing when people get into politics, that does happen. And a lot of preparation is behind the scenes, and the average person does not know how much preparation, how much manpower of volunteer, man-woman power of volunteerism that you need to get. It's a team sport, right? So I might be the front for the riding here, but there's a lot of team preparedness. There's fundraising, there's getting volunteers, there's door knocking. It's just a lot of work. So yep, we are in the throes of doing this, and we have been, as a party, organizing for a long time. As you said, those great list of candidates that you're seeing, they don't come overnight, right? There's lots that I've talked to persuade to win, to give them the straight goods of what it's like. And they want to put their name in the ballot. So I am very proud of the list of candidates that we have. I haven't got to meet them all yet, but I think we will soon. I think we can get together soon, in the month of February anyway, as a caucus that includes our candidates that are going to be representing us. So we're getting ready. We know a lot of the issues. I mean, it's going to be, how you did in the pandemic, how people thought you did in the pandemic. Right now, it's a bit of a tough time. The numbers are looking good when you look at the parameters of what we look for in the indicators for the pandemic, and relieving some of the restrictions. So it's going to be better times, for sure, getting close up. And we've done so much more in healthcare. You mentioned Christine Elliott, the great job she's done, long-term care, the great job that our ministers, I think we have 3 ministers now, but we made long-term care its own separate ministry during this time, so that we've got lots of beds that are in the progress of being developed, like 22,000, I think, new, and 17,000 upgraded beds, which is a huge amount. We won't get into the political thing of how the Liberals only created 611 new long-term care beds when they were in office. Anyway, long story. I don't want to get into that one, because, as I said, I was a nurse before, so I can talk healthcare a lot. But broadband's a big issue up here. Again, Premier Ford listened. Largest, almost $4 billion investment, the largest in Canada, the largest in history, to start to build that network out so we can all access the internet. in a fair manner, because as you know, rural Ontario was very stuck in a lot of areas. I would say 40% of my riding alone doesn't have adequate or any broadband, which is absolutely a massive number. But
Well, we haven't been broken up yet, so this is a good indicator.
good indicator. It's a good indicator. Things are getting better, but that all leads to more jobs, job creation, the supports we've given in rural Ontario through infrastructure dollars, the great job the Minister of Labor, Mr. McNaughton, has done, on getting more skills development, making it more accessible, just all types of things to try and help businesses get through. So there's been lots of investments. So we run, we're in government now. This is my election where I'm running, defending our record. So that's the first time I've done that. It's going to be my 6th election. So
busy.
Yeah, it'll be, the pandemic, nobody's ever, done that in Ontario. So run after a pandemic, and probably still remnants of it or be out there, but it's good. It's going to be a challenge, but you gotta love campaigning.
Campaigning is always a good time. I mean, I got involved fully into my first campaign, like my full first campaign in the recent federal election, and hopefully in the upcoming provincial election. And especially, as you said, now it's defending records and putting a future forward, because this election is going to be probably most vital in terms of creating a new future for Ontario. And that's for sure. So I would love to talk more about that, but we're going to go into the last segment, which is called Advice for the Next Generation. And we talk about youth involvement in politics more. We ask this question to every single of our guests. And it's something really simple, really quick, doesn't have to be too much in depth. But what do you think young high school conservatives can do in order to get more politically active, in one piece of advice that you would give them?
Well, get involved. So you are. You're talking to me, you're doing a podcast, you've got a team. Get involved, like learn everything about the campaigns. I mean, you will learn even from door knocking, you will learn how to talk to people, you will learn, the different components of a campaign, the organization. Get involved. You'll hear the issues. You're going to get a feel for what the electorate is thinking, saying. It is just jump in. And if you're not scared, I'm always nervous, and that's a good sign, because you're on, it emboldens you to get out there. You can't let fear stop you. So get involved in the first. You just got to do it. As I said, if you're running as a candidate, if you want to get, you just go and do it. You just do it. You learn it. There's people there. You're not solo. It's team building. Sometimes it might be small team, but you're out there. You're learning, and you can have fun doing all this. You can have fun. Sometimes I forget. You can get. There's a large majority of support that are happy. They're in a democracy that a whole bunch of people are running, and then there's just a few that are going to give you a really, really hard time, which you just get used to taking. So sometimes I've certainly thickened my skin. I used to nurse and everybody loved me, and then I got in politics and not everybody loves you. So there's some development as you go through that, but that's just it's great. It's a great preparation for life. It's a great exposure. And when my nieces would join me and we'd have the van wrapped with my name on, and I just said, not everybody loves Aunt Laurie, and my face is on this van, so get ready for it. But you do it, and I'm very optimistic. We'll form government again, but we take nothing for granted, and we've worked really hard for 4 years, and I want to work really hard for another 4 years, and preferably in the government side.
For sure. And I mean, obviously, like you said, there's no shortage of involvement this year. I mean, this is a planned election. It's not going to be a snap election, so we know when it's happening. And I'm sure that we'll have a full, great slate of candidates in all 124 ridings, I think.
Correct,
Ontario's,
yep.
yeah, it's a couple more than federal. I know federal, there's 122, so it's like 124. There's definitely, you live in a riding and you have multiple neighboring ridings, so no shortage of opportunities. So that's a great way to get involved. And you're right about that. Just get involved. So thank you, Laurie, for your time today. We really appreciate you being with us, and we wish you well in the future, and good luck in the campaign and the election that's going to be coming far sooner than any of us want it to, for sure.
Thank you so much.
So that is it. We hope you enjoyed today's interview. You can look for more videos coming soon. Make sure to follow our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok accounts at Ontario HS Cons for info about our next interview and for more great content. Check out our website, ontariohsconservatives.org, to learn more about us, see our projects, and for more great content. For our YouTube viewers, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss a video. For our podcast listeners, make sure to follow us and stay updated with new episodes. We hope to see you all soon.